Hey there, thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Smart Marketing for Small Nonprofits podcast. I hope you find this week's podcast helpful for you. And as you head into the week, I've got a little marketing motivational quote of the week. It is when you give of yourself that you truly give. Have a great week. You're listening to the Smart Marketing for Small Nonprofits podcast, episode number 60.
Welcome to the Smart Marketing for Small Nonprofits podcast, providing insights on how to strategically promote your organization and its mission in a way that produces results. It's all about empowering nonprofits so that they can make the impact they want and the world needs. And now, here's your host, Cindy May.
Well, hello to you all. I hope you're having a great day and that all is going well at your organization. I know how busy this end of year time is as you conduct that final fundraising push for your nonprofit. So my very sincere thanks for taking time to spend with me today. And speaking of end of year, have you heard about my Mission Marketing School Masterclass? I'm so very excited to share this with you. We just launched it a bit ago, and it's designed to help position your nonprofit and, of course, your marketing so that you can make the most of the end of year fundraising rush, which is quickly approaching, right? So here's what I've got to help you out. The Masterclass includes a 45-minute online training that you can access at any time, so it fits your schedule. No need to worry about getting on a webinar that doesn't work with your schedule, because I know that can be frustrating. When you have the time for the training, you'll learn how to create and launch a high-performing, meaning lots of donations, year-end email fundraising campaign using tried and true email marketing strategies that are proven to work. Plus, included in the masterclass, I've got an execution guide. I created this for you as a detailed step-by-step guide so that you can quickly and efficiently implement your end-of-year email campaign plan of action with clarity and confidence. I know you don't have time to waste, so with these two educational pieces combined, the video training and the execution plan, you'll have exactly what you need to strategically develop and implement a standout, high-performing email campaign ready to go to win that needed end-of-year support for your organization. You can check out all the details on my website at cindymaymarketing.com. You know what's interesting? The biggest chunk of nonprofit fundraising happens in December. In fact, that's why I created this class, because something like a third of annual giving happens next month, with the bulk happening in the last 3 days. Now, that's a lot of giving in a very narrow window, right? Well, similarly, it's a small portion of your donors who are likely responsible for a huge portion of your funding. It's just a variation of the 80-20 rule. The top 20% of your donors are probably contributing close to 80% of all your funding. In fact, there's some well-respected fundraisers who will argue it's more like 90-10. And a good portion of those donors fall into what your organization considers major gift givers. Now, there's no hard and fast rule for what constitutes a major donor. I know organizations who consider $500 a year the entry point, while others say $1,000 or even more. Not only are they some of the biggest donors, they are also some of the most consistent. When times are tough and other levels of donors pull back on how much they give, major donors are pretty steady and are typically the ones that will increase in growth. The Fundraising Effectiveness Project, which is part of the Association of Fundraising Professionals, they did a study comparing 2017 to 2018 giving rates. While the level of giving went down slightly for both general donors giving $250 or less, or mid-level donors, which was defined as between $250 and $1,000, donations from those giving $1,000 or more went up over 3%. And the time used to secure a major investor is the very definition of good ROI. Gail Perry, an expert in the field and the author of Fired Up Fundraising, offers this absolutely eye-popping comparison. As a general rule of thumb, she said, if you add up the staff time required to put on a fundraising event, you get about 50 cents on the dollar. Your work on your annual fund campaign is about 25 or 30 cents for every dollar raised. But major gifts? Try 5 to 10 cents for every dollar. So once you have a major gift giver on your roster, it's super important to do all you can to keep them engaged, don't you think? Notice I said once you have, because I'm drawing a line between acquisition of these donors and retention of them. And here's why. The strategies for acquisition of major donors is quite different than for the attraction or retention of general or even mid-level donors. It's possible that you have a separate staffer doing development work that is centered around identifying, cultivating, and ultimately landing these high-level donors. They are doing a lot of background work and phone calls, in-person meetings, and tours and so forth. And given the amounts of money and commitment we're talking about, that totally makes sense. Remember, even with that extra work, it's a nickel to a dime for every dollar you raise, according to Ms. Perry. What I'm focusing on today is the marketing efforts that your organization can do that will keep these special donors engaged in your organization. Because let's face it, this is a different type of donor. If nothing else, they have substantially more skin in the game. I suspect that they might have more of a sense of ownership, and given that they can afford a large gift, they might have some serious business acumen of their own that they'll use in judging the value of your organization and its effectiveness. And these are all aspects of major donors that should be considered when communicating with them. So let's talk about that. To start off with, let's talk about what I mentioned earlier. You might have entirely different staff working on marketing and communications versus development and major donors. If that's the case, my first and most important piece of advice is to make sure they are talking with each other. I know that in small nonprofits, everything is going so fast and everyone has so much to do. It gets easy to get siloed and just focus on the task at hand for your piece of the puzzle. So if you're a marketing pro, reach out to your development office. And if you're in charge of major gifts, have a cup of coffee periodically with the marketing team. And if you are the boss of both of them, make sure they're keeping in touch. Make sure your technology is also up to snuff. Whatever donor management system you have needs to be able to segregate high-level donors and the programs or initiatives that motivated them to give. This will for sure help your organization and avoid unnecessary snafus in communications. What kind of snafus, you ask? Well, how about the nonprofit that scores a major gift, enters the benefactor into your email platform, but doesn't or can't tag or segregate by the level of the gift or motivation for giving? It would be embarrassing if a month after receiving that major gift, the donor gets an email asking him or her to become a monthly giver. Whoops, that's not going to look so good. Or after making a gift to specifically support one of your initiatives, your donor keeps on getting newsletters about a totally different program. So marketing and major gifts and the technology supporting them both, they need to always be on the same page. But marketing and communications, again, working with any major gift officer or staff you have, can also be the workhorse complementing certain efforts that will help keep your major donors involved and engaged. And this stewardship will keep paying dividends year after year. So here's my top 5 ways that marketing can help augment your major gift outreach. Number 1, thank your major donor, of course, quickly, more than once, and with some very specific information. These are not people who should get the generic autoresponder for their gift. They need and deserve some additional love. Calls and handwritten notes are a good start, but again, these are folks you've been cultivating and you know them a lot better. And dollars to donuts, you're going to find that they take their philanthropy seriously and they want to know that their hefty donation is making an impact. Now, generally, I believe emotionally compelling stories are better marketing than data and stats about your programs. But I got to tell you, major donors are the exception to this rule. They should be given the numbers, not at the expense of the emotionally compelling story. Ultimately, if folks don't feel, they don't give. But in the case of major donors, it's important to give the specifics of how their gift will be used, the expected impact, and the overall historic effectiveness of your programs. You may want to consider a printed or, if sending by email, a PDF that has a report that is specifically for major donors that gives them the results and metrics that they probably are looking for to confirm that their gift is money well spent. Now, that doesn't mean that you always have to create standalone special communications for your major donors. If you have e-communications or a letter that you're sending to your entire donor base, your major donors should be included, but you'll want to take a moment to personalize those communications for this special group. Now, mostly this can be done in the introductory paragraph of your communication, so you don't have to rewrite everything, but in that introductory paragraph, you can really get into the personalized communication strategy that I believe should be used. Even if you just say that as a member of our major gift society, you uniquely understand the importance of the work that we're doing. That will help reinforce the idea that this donor is a member of a special group. And major gift societies are in fact the next tip on keeping your major donors engaged in your cause. Whether you call them the chairman's circle or friends or whatever the name of your special group is, being a part of this group is a big deal because, and not to be crass about it, these folks like to be associated with each other. They're curious about who else is in the group. They like to hobnob, for lack of a better word, and identifying them as a member of this special tier of giving offers them the chance to connect with others at the same level. One of our clients has a major donor group. Entry level for them is $500. And every year, one of the biggest events they hold is their special society Sunday afternoon get together. And regardless of the venue, it's one of the most popular events on their calendar. It's not because of the food or the wine and beer being served, and it's not because there's a special program of events. It's because they get to socialize with each other. And the nonprofit that does this event makes the absolute most of it. They hire a photographer to take pictures of everyone who comes and then sends those photos to the donors who attend. They also include the photos in a special 8-page magazine that lists every donor in this group, except, of course, those who ask to remain anonymous. It's organized by level of giving, and it is very popular. It's just another easy way to acknowledge the extraordinary generosity being shown. But connecting with other high-end donors is not the only thing that motivates major contributors. For them, being part of your organization may very well be part of a higher calling. Have you ever heard the story about the 3 masonry workers who were part of the construction crew for St. Patrick's in New York City? A person passing by asked the first one, "What are you doing?" The mason replied, "I'm laying bricks." The second mason asked the same thing, said he was putting up a wall. But the third mason told the passerby, "Me? I'm building a cathedral." And it's very likely your major donors feel similarly. What's motivating them isn't just being another donor to your organization, no matter how worthwhile. They probably aren't even looking at it from the perspective of supporting a specific initiative, even though they are. They are there to change the world. So it's a really good practice to make sure you give them the opportunity to see how they are changing the world. I think we might even be shy about asking our major donors to be volunteers. We think they've already given so much, or they're probably too busy, or they won't be interested in the roll up your sleeves on the front lines work that volunteering entails. But here's the thing, it doesn't hurt to ask. It's a great way of letting people know that you don't just need or want them because of the money that they are giving. And it gives you a way to engage them on a different level. You're offering them a window into the work you do and helping connect them directly with the beneficiaries of your work, be it children, the homeless, animals, the environment, or whatever the focus of your nonprofit is. Meaningful engagement beyond writing a check fosters loyalty and connection and invests them in their heart as much as their wallet. My last tip pivots off the personal engagement, but in another way. Make your major donors as part of your leadership. As I mentioned earlier, these are folks who probably are very successful in their fields, thus their ability to make such a large gift to your organization. They're probably very savvy and would make awesome thought leaders for your board or, more informally, part of your kitchen cabinet. Depending on their backgrounds, they could be people you turn to when addressing a specific challenge and running your organization, or could point you towards resources you could use. Or they might just be great folks to help you recruit other major donors. That's always nice, right? Well, that's it. My tips on how marketing and communications can work hand in hand with your major donor acquisition staffers to make sure these generous benefactors are always informed and engaged with your organization long after they write that first check. If you enjoyed this podcast, can I ask you a favor? Give me a review on iTunes or Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to your podcasts. It will help other nonprofit marketers like yourself be a part of our growing community. And speaking of community, if you haven't yet joined the Smart Marketing for Small Nonprofits Facebook group, I invite you to do so. It's where we get to take the topic of each podcast a bit further with some one-on-one conversation, tips, and encouragement. I hope you have an awesome week, and I'll of course be back soon with more marketing tips, tools, and smart strategies to help you and your nonprofit connect with all the amazing people who make your heart-centered mission possible. Until then, keep doing what you're doing to make the world a better place.
Thanks for listening to the Smart Marketing for Small Nonprofits podcast. Check out show notes for today's episode at cindymaymarketing.com, and we'll see you next time.